Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolutely fantastic, high impact, and honestly incredibly low prep strategy that literally transforms your high schoolers into academic detectives. Look, if you teach grades 9 through 12, you know the daily struggle, right? Getting students to not just hunt for a right answer, but to actively defend their thinking. Well, that's exactly what we're tackling today with a routine we call the odd one out. Here's our quick roadmap for the explainer. We're going to cover 1. Meet the odd one out. 2. Why this works. 3. The 4-step process. 4. Examples by subject. And finally, 5. Pro tips and AI. All right, kicking things off with section 1, meet the odd one out, a crucial twist. Let's define exactly what this strategy actually is, and more importantly, the little twist that completely elevates it for high school students. It really all boils down to just 6 simple words. Which doesn't belong, defend it. That's the whole shebang. You just present your students with a small group of related items, maybe vocabulary terms, images, equations, or historical figures, and you demand a defense. It's an engaging, quick routine designed specifically to build up critical thinking, discussion, and those all-important justification skills. I want to introduce you to Detecto, our fun little character mascot from the source material. Notice his special ability listed right there, reasoning boost, multiple answers allowed with strong justification. The goal here isn't to play a basic matching game or to find some single hidden truth. Nope, it's a real active investigation. So the real game changer is how this differs from what our kids are used to. With your standard multiple choice, they're just hunting for that one single correct answer. It's totally binary, right or wrong. But the odd one out twist? There is rarely just one right answer. Multiple items could technically be the outlier depending entirely on the criteria the student decides to apply. The grade, the power, the actual correctness lies 100% in their justification. This shifts the whole classroom vibe from just guessing the teacher's password to developing genuine disciplinary reasoning. Moving right along to section 2, why this strategy works, the cognitive benefits. Because before we look at exactly how to run this live, we really need to understand why it's so remarkably effective at driving higher order thinking. The cognitive benefits here are huge. First off, it completely forces metacognition. Instead of just mindlessly memorizing a definition, students have to actively retrieve everything they know about 3 or 4 different concepts all at once and synthesize that info to find relationships. Second, it naturally sparks academic dialogue and debate. You're giving them this highly structured prompt where they actually listen to a peer's logic, evaluate it, and respectfully counter-argue. And practically speaking for you, the teacher, it's a lightning-fast 5-minute formative assessment. Boom! Use it as a bell ringer to wake them up or as an exit ticket for an immediate snapshot of where the class is at. But honestly, perhaps the biggest superpower of this strategy is that it's differentiated by design. It's got a super low floor, but a very high ceiling. Your struggling students can look at a math set and spot a basic reason for an outlier. They might say, well, this one's a fraction and the others aren't. That your advanced kids, they're pushed to use complex abstract reasoning, maybe arguing, actually, this function cannot be factored over the real numbers while the others can. Everybody participates, but the depth of the reasoning perfectly scales with the student's ability. Okay, section 3, the 4-step classroom process, building a routine. Let's break down the exact chronological steps for actually running this in your classroom tomorrow. It's really just 4 easy steps. Step 1, present the set. Just throw 3 or 4 items up on the board. Step 2, think in pair. Give them some quiet, independent time to analyze the items, find connections, pick their outlier, and then pair up to discuss. Now, step 3, this is the absolute engine of the whole thing. Justify. Students have to write down or verbally explain why their choice doesn't fit, and you've got to require specific academic vocabulary here. Finally, step 4, debate and share. The whole class hashes it out, defending their reasoning against peers who picked a totally different odd one out. Pro tip, never ever accept a student just shouting out an answer. If they just blurt out a name, your immediate follow-up needs to be, okay, what's your criteria for eliminating them? All right, section 4, examples across all subjects, cross-curricular application. This is the fun part. Let's take a quick tour through specific content areas and see how this actually looks across the high school curriculum. Check out the multiple answer mechanic in these core subjects. In an English literature class, imagine presenting Macbeth, J. Gatsby, Okonkwo, and Atticus Finch. One student might say Atticus Finch is the odd one out because he's a traditional moral hero, right? The others are tragic heroes whose flaws totally destroy them. But another student could step up and correctly argue that J. Gatsby's the outlier because he's from a 20th century American novel, while the others are from different eras or global settings. Let's look at chemistry. Helium, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and water. You could say helium because it's a noble gas, but you could also say water because, hey, it's a liquid at room temperature. In history, the Articles of Confederation is the odd one out because it was a failed replace system. But the Magna Carta is the outlier because it's British, not American. And in algebra too, sure, a linear equation stands out in a group of quadratics, but a specific quadratic might stand out because its vertex sits exactly at the origin. See, the subject changes, but that rich, deep reasoning stays exactly the same. Now, you might be wondering, is this just for core classes? No way. This strategy is not remotely limited to core academics. It thrives just as strongly in electives. Let's break those elective applications down because they are awesome. In PE, imagine putting 4 different basketball shots on the board. A student has to justify why a layup is the odd one out compared to 3 types of jump shots. Or maybe one is a free throw, so the debate is about defended versus undefended scenarios. What about world language? Present 4 Spanish verbs where 3 are preterite and 1 is imperfect, or maybe one just breaks a standard conjugation rule. In ROTC, throw up 4 different physical training or leadership scenarios. In arts and theater, have them analyze 4 music notes or 4 different airs of theater. And in CTE, career and technical education, give them 4 different industry terms, tools, or real-world job scenarios. The content is 100% flexible, but that cognitive workout, analyzing, comparing, and justifying, that is universal. Bringing it home with Section 5, Facilitation Tips and AI Prompts. Masterful Facilitation. To wrap up our explainer, let's look at a pro tip for running this live, plus an incredible time-saving hack for your prep time. Here's a really masterful facilitation tip from the sources called the none are odd trap. Once your students are super comfortable with this routine, playfully trap them. Occasionally give them a set where all 4 items share a deep, common thread. You're testing to see if they can identify that overarching theme instead of just hunting for differences. Or, alternatively, challenge them to find a valid, evidence-based reason why every single item in the set could technically be the odd one out. Honestly, it blows the ceiling right off the activity and forces them to look at the concepts from 4 completely different angles. And finally, look, we all know teachers are short on time, so grab the AI lesson prompt provided in our source material. You just copy this exact formula into your favorite AI tool. Plug in your subject, your grade level, and your specific daily standard. The prompt specifically tells the AI to generate 5 sets of 4 items, ensuring every single set allows for multiple correct answers. It even spits out the 2 to 3 possible answers in the reasoning for your teacher guide. It's literally a way to generate incredibly rigorous, discourse-heavy lesson material in about 30 seconds. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Think about your next lesson, your next unit, your next standard. What set of 4 items will you put in front of your students tomorrow? Give them the clues, step back, and watch them become academic detectives. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and happy teaching.